Budget 2013 will bring you all the latest from Westminster and Winchester. 7 years for a man deemed a danger to the public. Years to hydrotherapy. Meet Heidi, the swimming rabbit. I'm Simisola Adebosin. Earlier today, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Judge Osborne, stood up in front of Parliament and announced this year's budget, which looks to be a dull affair with very little to be happy about. The budget has confirmed that Britain's national debt will continue to rise and that public finances are in dire straits. In our budget special today, our reporters have been looking into some of the issues which today's budget has had to deal with. But first, our politics reporter, Nadine Forshaw, was at Westminster earlier today talking with newest MP in Parliament, Mike Thornton. He said that the budget is dealing with a difficult situation, but the coalition is doing as well as can be expected.
Here in Westminster, the atmosphere is full of anticipation as the whole country awaits for George Osborne to announce the budget for 2013. The main question facing the Chancellor is whether or not he should abandon his plans to continue to cut borrowing over the next few years. Instead, it has been suggested that he should invest in infrastructure to help promote jobs and encourage growth. The leader of the opposition, Ed Miliband, has criticised Osborne by stating that his economic plan is failing. Instead, he should be trying a new plan. Earlier, I spoke to Lib Dem and the newest MP in Parliament, Mike Thornton, about what he is expecting from the 2013 budget.
Well, I think in the current situation we can't expect a whole lot. We do know we're going to get an improved tax allowance starting in April from the previous budget. What I'd like to see is that go up not just to the £10,000 that we've promised, but so that everyone on minimum wage doesn't have to pay income tax at all. Now, I doubt that'll happen, but that would be fantastic.
To coincide with Budget Day, public sector workers are demonstrating outside Westminster about pay, pensions and working conditions, so it will be interesting to see if they get what they want from this budget. Nadine Forshaw, Winchester News Online.
For a full version of the interview with MP Mike Thornton, go to winol.co.uk. Our economic correspondent Faith Thomas has been outside the Bank of England in London today, seeing how the financial sector has reacted to today's budget. Some have demanded for increased spending on infrastructure, something Osborne promised in an announcement earlier.
The UK is struggling to grow economically, and George Osborne is under pressure today to deliver the right changes. The bankers are wary, and they've told me that spending on infrastructure is something they'd like to see change. Although other bankers have told me that they are unable to comment.
Yeah, I think spending infrastructure would make a big difference, and I think the course of deficits is a difficult one, but I think it's one that has to be followed. And I think that, worldwide there's a lot of countries which are doing it, and it is beginning to make a difference. And equally, there's countries which are sort of turning a blind eye to it, and really it's sort of just sticking plasters over an open wound and not really fixing anything. So I think in short term pain now, but I think in the long term it'll be much better.
Expansion of the personal allowance. I'm not sure we're going to get a cut in the basic rate of income tax, but that would be nice. And possibly something for education.
I don't think there's one thing. There are so many aspects of everybody's lives that are affected by the recession at the moment that the whole thing needs to change.
His room for manoeuvre is very limited, but I think what he's got to do is he's got to stick to debt reduction. He's got to try and stimulate growth really with investment in infrastructure, and again really try to keep the UK competitive by tax reductions probably for business. We're in a global economy, so having the most competitive tax environment really for business is going to be the best way to attract jobs and investment into the UK.
I'd like to see decisions that are going to stimulate growth and create jobs, basically. I don't think they should mess with the inflation targeting too much. I think they should leave that as it is. But I think they need to let the new governor settle in before they make any radical change, because he's clearly going to have a different attitude towards things.
With the new governor of the Bank of England starting in July, the bank could see many changes. With little to spend today on tax and extra spending, Osborne is expected to launch a review whether or not he should allow the bank to spend extra on growth and inflation. Austerity has been used to reduce public expenditure, but England cannot get public spending to fall. Faith Thomas, Winchester News Online, London.
For most of us, the budget will be affecting our home lives and our work lives. But in some cases, like the budget decision and fuel, these two are being affected at the same time. Our reporter, Luke Garrett, is in the newsroom to take us through the budget and fuel duty. Luke, what are the country's motorists thinking of all this?
The Chancellor has said that fuel duty for this year will be frozen, and the government clearly thinks they can sell this as a good news story. But for many motorists, this just isn't enough. They think it's far too high already.
It's not a bit cleaner for you.
For months, people with an interest in the rise and the fall in the cost of fuel have been counting the days until the budget. Economy analysts have been warning Chancellor George Osborne that a rise in fuel duty could cause a triple-dip recession. And Osborne has said that the fuel duty in 2013 won't rise, freezing it at its current level. But these statistics from the last 7 years show that the tax on fuel has risen consistently, and it's the major consumers that are going to get hit the hardest.
I think the whole thing's disgusting. I think we're paying far too much tax on fuel, and behind you there are two prices showing the prices of diesel now £1.50 a litre. You know, it's extraordinary that the government are taking so much money from the public and from hauliers.
So you've got to fill up 4 times a week, 350 litres a time. It takes its toll. So.
In previous budgets, we all watched fuel duty quite carefully. But a man at the centre of this, Transport Minister Norman Baker, said today that it may be a side issue altogether when compared with the way motorists will be charged in the future.
Well, I personally recognise that we need to move forward to a situation where we try to charge based on environmental performance of the vehicle rather than simply on the crude measure of fuel duty and road tax as we've had. But that's been the Lib Dem manifesto last time round, and that's where we continue to stay. But this is a long-term plan.
So, with the budget decision on fuel tax set in stone for another year, the public will have to put a lid on their frustrations until the next budget.
Norman Baker also told me today that he thought that this was a very good budget and that the Liberal Democrats will be very happy with it, and it will be interesting to see whether they're happy over the next year.
Thank you, Luke. Judge Osborne has today announced a rise in the income tax threshold. This aims to allow individuals to keep more of their wage packet. As well as this, employers will have the first £2,000 of their national insurance payments already paid for by the government. This aims to reduce unemployment. Matt Spencer takes a look at how consumer spending has changed over the last decade.
In London, Osborne is calculating ways to make the British economy grow. But the heart of the problem isn't located in London. It's located in industrial estates, just like this one, dotted all over the country. 2007 marked the start of the credit crunch. Before this point, you may have wanted to build that new conservatory, or even build that new shed, which of course you would stock with all of the correct power tools. And all of these power tools would of course need all of the correct accessories. To fund this, you may have taken out a small bank loan. And why not? The economy was in boom. Then in 2007, the foundations of our wealth were starting to crumble. And bank loans were becoming a rare breed in Britain. By 2009, the unemployment rate had reached a record high of 8.1%, meaning spending time in your shed was becoming the only thing that you could do. And even that dream was slowly dying.
In the last decade, statistics show that household disposable income has risen and risen in the UK. However, consumer spending has fallen drastically since 2007. Is it therefore not the pounds in the pockets of individuals that are affecting what they buy, but is it in fact a common lack of confidence amongst consumers within the shaky markets? The real question here is, what do these statistics mean in the real British economy, made up of workers and customers and not just notes on paper?
We've obviously noticed quite a severe drop in terms of sales on the power tools and bits and pieces like that. It has slowly started to pick back up again, but it seems to be a question of it starts and it stalls, it starts and it stalls, and this is a regular pattern that we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months really.
Has today's budget finally filled a hole in this industry, or will Osborne need a much bigger shovel?
And here with me in the studio is Max Stafford, a Labour Party supporter, and Harvey Taylor, our business reporter. Thank you for joining us, Max.
Thank you. It's not changed a lot. It needed to be far more radical. Borrowing is still up, growth is still down. We've still lost the AAA rating and it's still a part-time omnishambles chancellor. So if you don't change any of those things, nothing generally is going to change. But
So you think it could have been done better? How would you have done it better, Labour Party?
George Osborne said before the last election, judge me on 3 things. I'll keep the AAA credit rating, the economy will grow, and the deficit will shrink. Now, the deficit has shrunk by 1/3, which is good news. That still needs to come down. He's still missing his deficit reduction target by 2 years. The debt, however, will have gone up by more than £600 billion by the end of this Parliament, the biggest debt we will ever have had. He's also, the economy is at best flatlining. At worst, we're about to go into a triple-dip recession, which is really bad for people's jobs up and down the country. And 3 weeks ago, Moody's credit rating agency reduced the credit rating and lost the AAA rating. So all 3 of the competencies that this Chancellor said to judge him on have all been lost. So we really do need a change. If anything indicates the necessary need for a change of plan, it should be that, and he hasn't changed it, and I'm afraid it's just arrogance from the Chancellor.
And Harvey, you have been following the budget. What are the highlights? What do we need to know?
Well, as always with the budget, there are always winners and losers. And as Max previously mentioned, with the 1p being slashed from the price of beer, a campaign which is heavily backed by the Sun newspaper. Elsewhere in taxation, the tax threshold of £10,000 will come into consideration in 2014, where families will not be taxed on their income tax until they're earning over the £10,000 threshold.
Thank you. In other news, an Andover man has been given 7 years in jail after robbing a teenager at knife point with a weapon described as extremely sharp and dangerous by the judge. The court heard that a 20-year-old man has an appalling record with almost 20 former convictions. Our court reporter, Christina Michaels, walks us through the robbery.
Lewis Day Robinson has been jailed after he was branded a danger to the public by the judge. Robinson, aged 20, from Junction Road in Andover, was convicted of robbery at Winchester Crown Court.
It was here along this pathway, just off Charlton Road in Andover, where Robinson robbed the victim in broad daylight. Robinson pushed the 17-year-old teenager up against the chain-link fence and held a small craft knife to his throat. He searched the victim and stole a £10 note that he found in his wallet and some tobacco.
Robinson was released from prison in November and within 8 weeks has reoffended. Passing sentence, Judge Peter Henry said, "You have for a young man the most appalling record." The judge imposed a sentence of 7 years behind bars. Christina Michaels, Winchester News Online, Andover.
Forget the doggy paddle. Heidi the rabbit is starting a new trend in the animal kingdom. Jack Webb hopped on down to Milford to find out more about this mad March Hare.
Heidi, a continental giant rabbit, is asking the all-important question, "What's up, Doc?" She has been diagnosed with arthritis in her hips and knees, which has led her to have hydrotherapy sessions to try and ease the pain on her joints. It looks like Heidi is hopping mad for the idea.
Hydrotherapy is actually easing her joints and obviously helping to keep the painkiller dose down, so doing her a lot of good. Huge difference. Yeah, she's been ever so springy, jumping in the air, a lot more lively, just moving, and her whole posture is like a proper rabbit. Now she's pain-free and she's got more movement. You know, she's just got more life in her.
Rabbits can swim in the wild, but they choose not to. Thankfully, Heidi is fitted with a life jacket, otherwise it could be watership drowned. She is thoroughly dried afterwards and is wrapped up warm, marching back home a very happy bunny. Jack Webb, Winchester News Online, Milford.
That's all from Winchester News Online this week. But to see more of Heidi's hydrotherapy adventures and for more award-winning news, sports and analysis, log on to winol.co.uk. Goodbye.